The air inside the briefing room smells like cigarette smoke, sweat, and damp wool. It's 1944, deep into the war, and RAF Bomber Command's operations have become a grinding machine of metal, fire, and loss. Outside, the English countryside sleeps under a blanket of fog, but inside this Nissen hut on a base somewhere in Lincolnshire, 35 young men sit in rows, staring at a curtain that hides a map of Europe. Flight Lieutenant William Bill Reed stands near the back, arms crossed, jaw tight. He's 21 years old, though his eyes carry the weight of someone twice that age. He's flown 14 operations over Germany, 14 times into the heart of hell and back. Tonight will be his 15th. The group captain pulls the curtain aside with a sharp tug. The red ribbon stretches across the map from England, over the North Sea, across the Netherlands, and deep into Germany. The target, Düsseldorf. Gentlemen, the officer begins, his voice flat and practiced, tonight's target is the industrial heart of the Ruhr Valley. Marshalling yards, factories, rail infrastructure. Primary objective, maximum disruption to enemy logistics. Weather will be marginal. Flak will be heavy. Fighter activity expected. Bill doesn't flinch. None of them do. They've heard this speech 100 times. The words change, but the meaning is always the same. You might not come back. The briefing continues. Routes. Altitudes. Rendezvous points. Radio frequencies. Pathfinder markers. The young navigators scribble notes. The bomb aimers memorize coordinates. The wireless operators check their watches. The gunners, rear, mid-upper, tail, sit stone-faced, knowing they'll be the first to see the enemy and the last to escape if things go wrong. Bill's crew is good. Damn good. They've been together for months now, through the freezing nights over Hamburg, the infernos of Berlin, the searchlight gauntlet over Essen. His navigator, pilot officer Jim Norris, is sharp as a tack. His bomb aimer, Sergeant Les Rolton, never misses. His wireless operator, Flight Sergeant Les Hyder, can tap out Morse faster than most men can think. And his gunners, Alan Jeffries in the rear turret, Jack Mann in the mid-upper, are hunters with ice in their veins. They trust each other. They have to. The briefing ends. Chairs scrape against the floor. Men file out into the cold night air, boots crunching on gravel. Some joke nervously. Others walk in silence. Bill lights a cigarette, the flame from his lighter briefly illuminating his face. Lean, pale, tired. Not a milk run, Skip? Jim says, adjusting his navigation bag on his shoulder. Never is, Bill replies, exhaling smoke into the fog. But we've done worse. They walk toward the dispersal area where the Lancasters wait like sleeping giants. The 4-engine bombers sit in rows, their dark shapes barely visible in the moonless night. Ground crews swarm around them, loading bombs, checking engines, topping off fuel tanks. The smell of high-octane aviation fuel and oil hangs thick in the air. Bill's aircraft is Lancaster LM-360, coded O for oboe. She's a Mark III, built in 1943, powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Merlin engines. She's been through hell, patched up after flak damage over Cologne, repainted after an engine fire over France, and still flying. Bill knows every rivet, every hatch, every quirk of her controls. She's not just a machine. She's home. He walks around her, conducting his pre-flight inspection. He checks the control surfaces, the tires, the bomb bay. Inside the belly of the beast, 8,000 pounds of high-explosive bombs wait in silence. The armorers have chalked messages on them, to Adolphe, with love, special delivery. Gallows humor. It's all they have. Bill climbs aboard through the forward hatch, settling into the pilot's seat. The cockpit is cramped, lit only by the dim glow of instrument panels. Throttles, altimeters, fuel gauges, engine temperatures, every dial tells a story. He straps himself in, adjusts his parachute harness, and pulls on his leather flying helmet. One by one, the crew takes their positions. Jim in the navigator's compartment, bent over his maps and charts. Les Rolton lying prone in the bomb aimer's position in the nose. Les Hyder at his wireless set, headphones on. Alan Jeffries crawling into the rear turret, the loneliest spot on the aircraft. Jack Mann in the mid-upper turret, swiveling his twin .303 Brownings. All crew check in, Bill says into the intercom. Navigator here. Bomb aimer here. Wireless op here. Mid-upper here. Rear gunner here. Bill nods. Everyone's ready. The engines cough to life, one by one. The Merlins roar, their sound shaking the airframe, filling the night with thunder. The propellers spin into blurs. The bomber trembles with power. O for oboe to tower, ready for taxi. Tower to oboe, cleared for runway 27. Bill releases the brakes, and the Lancaster rolls forward, heavy and lumbering, its tail wheel tracing a line in the dirt. The runway stretches ahead, a black ribbon disappearing into fog. Other Lancasters are already taking off, their navigation lights blinking as they climb into the darkness. Bill lines up on the center line. He pushes the throttles forward. The engines scream. The bomber accelerates, faster, faster, the tail lifts, the wheels leave the ground, and then they're airborne, climbing into the night, into the unknown. England falls away below. The fog swallows the land. The stars appear above, cold and indifferent. Somewhere ahead, over the North Sea, over the occupied territories, over Germany, death is waiting. But so is duty. And Bill Reed will not turn back. The North Sea stretches below like a black void. No moon. No landmarks. Just endless darkness and the steady drone of 4 Merlin engines. Inside the Lancaster, the temperature drops to freezing. Frost creeps across the cockpit windows. Bill's breath fogs the air as he grips the control column, eyes scanning the instruments. Altitude, 18,000 feet. Airspeed, 180 knots. Heading, 095 degrees. On course. On time. Navigator to pilot, Jim's voice crackles through the intercom. We'll cross the Dutch coast in 12 minutes. Flak expected. Roger, Bill replies. Gunners, keep your eyes sharp. In the rear turret, Alan Jeffries rotates the turret left and right, testing the movement. The twin Brownings are loaded, ready. The night presses against the Perspex dome, thick and impenetrable. He hates this part, the crossing. Once they hit the coast, the sky becomes a killing field. The bomber stream around them is invisible. Hundreds of Lancasters, Halifaxes, and Sterlings are flying the same route, staggered in altitude and time, but in the darkness, each crew feels utterly alone. No lights. No formation. Just faith in the navigation and hope that the enemy doesn't find you first. Minutes tick by. The tension builds. Then, navigator to pilot, crossing the coast now. Below, the coastline appears as a faint gray line. Occupied Holland. The enemy is awake. Suddenly, the sky erupts. Flak bursts appear like orange flowers blooming in the darkness. Anti-aircraft shells explode at their altitude, sending jagged shrapnel through the air. The sound reaches them a second later, muffled thumps like distant thunder. The Lancaster rocks as a burst detonates close to the port wing. Bill holds the controls steady, ignoring the jolt. Flak, 10 o'clock level. Jack calls from the mid-upper turret. I see it, Bill says calmly. Hold steady. More bursts. The sky becomes a latticework of explosions. Searchlights sweep upward from the ground, probing the darkness, hunting for bombers. If they catch you in their beam, you're a sitting duck, illuminated, blinded, and targeted by every gun in the area. Bill weaves slightly, altering altitude and heading just enough to throw off the gunners below. But there's only so much you can do. The flak box over the target will be worse. They press on. The Dutch countryside below is dark, punctuated by the glow of fires from earlier raids. Towns, villages, canals, all invisible under the blackout. The Lancaster flies deeper into enemy territory. Then, without warning, the intercom explodes with a shout. Fighter! Fighter! Port quarter high! Alan's voice is sharp, urgent. Bill's blood turns to ice. Where? Messerschmitt. Coming in fast. Before Bill can react, the night sky lights up. Cannon fire. Bright green and red tracers arc toward them from the left rear, tearing through the darkness like lethal fireflies. The Messerschmitt Bf-110, a twin-engine night fighter, has found them. The rear turret erupts in return fire. Alan hammers the triggers, his Browning spitting .303 rounds into the night. Tracer fire streams outward, intersecting with the Germans' attack. The sound inside the bomber is deafening. The roar of engines, the chatter of machine guns, the shriek of cannon shells ripping past. Corkscrew port! Go! Alan screams. Bill reacts instantly. He throws the control column forward and left, diving the heavy bomber into a violent corkscrew maneuver. Down, roll left, pull up, roll right, down again. The G-forces slam the crew against their stations. Jim's charts fly across the compartment. Les Rolton braces himself in the nose. The Lancaster groans under the strain, but she holds. The fighter overshoots, flashing past them in the darkness. He's coming around again. Alan shouts. The Bf-110 arcs through the night, repositioning for another pass. This time, Bill sees the silhouette, twin engines, long fuselage, deadly. The German pilot is good. Experienced. Mid-upper. Fire. Bill orders. Jack swings his turret and opens up, tracers lancing toward the fighter. The German returns fire. Cannon shells slam into the Lancaster's fuselage with sickening metallic thuds. One shell punches through the starboard wing, another tears through the bomb bay. Alarms scream in the cockpit. Engine fire. Starboard outer. Jim yells. Bill's eyes snap to the gauges. Engine number 3 is running wild, temperature spiking, oil pressure dropping. Flames flicker along the cowling, visible through the cockpit window. His heart hammers in his chest. Feather 3. Shut it down, he barks. Jim reaches for the feathering button, cutting fuel and oil to the burning engine. The propeller blades rotate to reduce drag, and the engine dies. But the fire doesn't stop. The flames grow, fed by leaking fuel, spreading along the wing. The fighter comes in again. This time, the attack is devastating. Cannon shells tear through the Lancaster's nose. The perspex shatters. Freezing wind screams into the cockpit. Les Rolton, the bomb aimer, is hit. Blood spatters across the instruments. He slumps forward, gasping. Bomb aimer's hit. Jim shouts, unbuckling to help. More shells rake the fuselage. The wireless compartment erupts in sparks. Les Hyder screams as shrapnel tears through his shoulder. The radio explodes, dead. Bill fights the controls. The Lancaster is wounded, bleeding fire and fuel, but she's still flying. The fighter, out of ammunition or spooked by the return fire, peels away and vanishes into the night. Silence. Just the roar of 3 engines and the howl of wind through the shattered nose. Status. Bill demands, his voice tight. Bomb aimers hit bad, skip, Jim reports. Wireless ops wounded. Radios gone. Fires still burning on 3. Bill looks out the cockpit window. The starboard wing is a nightmare, flames licking along the engine nacelle, spreading toward the fuel tanks. If the fire reaches the tanks, they'll explode. Everyone will die. Alan, Jack, report. Rear turret intact, Alan says, breathing hard. Mid-upper okay, Jack confirms. Bill makes a decision. They're 50 miles inside enemy territory. The bomber is crippled. The sensible thing, the sane thing, is to turn back, dump the bombs in the North Sea, and limp home. But Bill Reed didn't come this far to turn back. We're continuing to target, he says. Skip the fire. I said we're continuing. Jim stares at him for a moment, then nods. Roger, skip. Bill pushes the remaining 3 engines harder. The Lancaster climbs, trailing smoke and fire, into the heart of Germany. The fire on the wing is no longer just a flicker, it's a living, hungry thing. Flames crawl along the engine cowling, orange and yellow tendrils reaching toward the wing root where the fuel tanks sit like ticking bombs. Inside the cockpit, the heat radiates through the metal, and the acrid stench of burning oil and hydraulic fluid fills the air. Bill's hands are locked on the control column, his arms trembling from the effort of keeping the crippled Lancaster level. The bomber wants to roll right, dragged by the dead engine and the asymmetric thrust. He compensates with left rudder, left aileron, every muscle in his body engaged in the fight. Fire's spreading, skip! Jim shouts over the roar of wind through the shattered nose. Blood from Les Rolton's wounds has pooled on the floor, freezing in the sub-zero temperature. Jim has tied a tourniquet around the bomb aimer's leg and wrapped him in a blanket, but Les is unconscious, his breathing shallow. Behind them, Les Hyder clutches his wounded shoulder, his face pale with shock. The wireless set is a smoking ruin. Melted circuits, shattered dials, sparking wires. They have no radio. No way to call for help. No way to tell anyone they're still coming. How far to target? Bill asks, his voice hoarse. Jim checks his charts, his hands shaking. From cold or adrenaline, he doesn't know. 28 miles. 11 minutes. 11 minutes. An eternity. The bomber climbs through the darkness, trailing fire like a comet. The flames are visible for miles now, a beacon that screams to every German fighter and flak battery. Here I am. Come kill me. And they do. Searchlights. Dead ahead. Alan shouts from the rear turret. The sky ahead erupts in brilliant white beams. 6, 8, 10 searchlights snap on simultaneously, sweeping the night, converging into a cone of blinding light. Bill squints against the glare as the beams find them, locking on. The Lancaster is illuminated like an insect under a microscope. Instantly, the flak begins. Not the random bursts from the coast. This is concentrated, murderous fire. The Germans have them zeroed in. Heavy 88mm and 105mm anti-aircraft guns open up from batteries around Dusseldorf. The shells burst in perfectly spaced patterns. Altitude, heading, speed all calculated. The Lancaster flies into a steel curtain. The first burst detonates just below the port wing. The blast wave flips the bomber sideways. Bill fights the controls, leveling out. The second burst explodes above them, shrapnel shredding the upper fuselage. Jack's mid-upper turret is hit. Perspex shatters, metal screams. Jack cries out but keeps firing downward at the searchlights, desperate to blind the gunners. A third burst, directly ahead. The concussion slams into the Lancaster's nose like a fist. More Perspex shatters. Wind howls through the cockpit. Jim is thrown against the bulkhead. Bill's vision blurs. His head has struck the gun sight. Blood trickles down his forehead. But he doesn't let go of the controls. Altitude. Jim screams. We're dropping. Bill pulls back on the column. The Lancaster climbs again, engines screaming at full power. The fire on the starboard wing intensifies, fed by the increased airflow. The wing is glowing now, metal warping from the heat. Skip, we have to turn back. Jim pleads. The wing's going to fail. We're not turning back, Bill growls through clenched teeth. We're going to die. Bill doesn't answer. His eyes are fixed ahead, where the glow of Dusseldorf appears on the horizon. Fires from earlier waves of bombers, smoke rising into the sky. The pathfinders have marked the target with red and green flares. The aiming point is clear. "Bomb aimer to pilot," Bill says into the intercom. Silence. "Les is out, Skip," Jim says quietly. "I'll take over." Jim crawls forward into the bomb aimer's position, lying flat in the nose, staring through the shattered perspex at the inferno below. The city is a mass of flames and explosions. The marshalling yards are visible, rail lines, warehouses, factories, exactly where they're supposed to be. "I've got the target," Jim says. "Steady, steady." Bill holds the bomber straight and level, flying directly through the flak storm. Shells burst on all sides. The Lancaster shudders with each impact. The fire on the wing roars like a dragon. Left, left, steady. The bomb bay doors rumble open. The bomber rises slightly, relieved of the drag. Cold air screams through the open cavity. 8,000 pounds of high-explosive bombs wait in silence, armed and ready. Steady, steady. Bombs gone. The Lancaster lurches upward as the bombs fall away, tumbling through the night. Jim watches them disappear into the chaos below, then, seconds later, the flash of detonations. Direct hit. The marshalling yards erupt in a chain of explosions. "Close the doors," Bill orders. The bomb bay doors grind shut. The mission is complete. But the nightmare is far from over. A massive flak burst detonates directly beneath them. The explosion lifts the entire aircraft, flipping it onto its back. Bill is thrown against his harness, the world spinning. The fire on the wing flares, fuel spilling, igniting, consuming the entire starboard side. Bill fights the controls, rolling the Lancaster upright. The altimeter is spinning. They're diving. The ground is rushing up. "Pull up! Pull up!" Jim screams. Bill hauls back on the column with every ounce of strength. The control surfaces respond sluggishly, damaged, barely functional. The Lancaster pulls out of the dive at 8,000 feet, still descending, still burning. "She's not going to make it, Skip," Jim says, his voice hollow. Bill looks at the wing. The fire has consumed the entire engine nacelle and is spreading inward, toward the fuselage. The metal is glowing red. The wing is going to separate. But Bill Reed is not done yet. "Everyone, brace for impact," he says calmly. "We're getting out of Germany." He turns the bomber west, toward home, toward England, toward survival. The 3 remaining engines scream in protest, overheating, shaking the airframe. The fire spreads. The wind howls through the shattered cockpit. Blood freezes on Bill's face. And still he flies. The sky over Germany is a hell of fire and ice. The Lancaster limps westward, trailing smoke and flames like a dying bird desperate to reach its nest. The starboard wing is a torch now, the fire so intense that the metal glows white-hot in places. Rivets pop from the heat. Panels peel away, tumbling into the slipstream. The wing is disintegrating. Bill's hands are numb on the controls. His face is slick with blood from the head wound. His vision blurs and sharpens in waves. But he doesn't let go. He doesn't stop flying. "Skip, the wing's going to fold," Jim says, his voice tight with fear. "We need to bail out. Now." Bill doesn't answer. His eyes are fixed on the compass, on the artificial horizon, on the altimeter slowly unwinding. They're at 6,000 feet and descending. The 3 remaining engines are running ragged, temperatures in the red, oil pressure dropping. But they're still turning. In the back, Jackman has abandoned the mid-upper turret, the perspex shattered, the guns jammed. He crawls forward to check on Les Hyder, who sits slumped against the fuselage, half-conscious, his shoulder soaked in blood. Jack wraps another bandage around the wound, tying it tight. "Hang on, mate," Jack whispers. "Just hang on." In the nose, Jim tends to Les Rolton, the bomb aimer. Les is unconscious, his breathing shallow and wet. Internal bleeding, maybe worse. He needs a hospital. He needs it now. How long to the coast? Bill asks, his voice a rasp. Jim checks his charts, his hands shaking. 60 miles. Maybe less. But Skip, at this rate. We're making it to the coast. The Dutch countryside slides by below, dark and silent. The fire on the wing intensifies. The heat inside the cockpit is unbearable now, despite the freezing wind. Bill can feel the wing warping, the airframe groaning. The Lancaster is dying, but she's not dead yet. Then, another nightmare. Fighter. Fighter. 6 o'clock high. Alan's voice from the rear turret is laced with panic. Bill's heart sinks. Another Bf-110, drawn by the fire like a moth to a flame. Corkscrew. No, Bill interrupts, his voice cold and final. If I corkscrew, the wing will tear off. Alan, you'll have to take him. In the rear turret, Alan Jeffries swivels his guns, tracking the approaching fighter. His hands are steady, his breathing slow. He can see the German clearly now, black silhouette against the stars, closing fast. The fighter's cannon begin to wink, flashes of light in the darkness. Alan waits. Closer. Closer. Then he fires. The twin Brownings roar, tracers streaming into the night. The German fighter jinks left, then right, but Alan tracks him perfectly. Rounds strike the Bf-110's port engine. Smoke pours from the cowling. The fighter breaks off, diving away, trailing fire. He's gone. Alan shouts. Bill doesn't celebrate. There's no time. The Lancaster is hemorrhaging altitude. 4,000 feet. 3,000. The engines are failing. The wing is seconds from separation. Skip, we're not going to make the coast, Jim says quietly. Bill knows he's right. The math is simple. They're losing 200 feet per minute. The coast is still 20 miles away. They'll hit the ground first. But Bill Reed has one more card to play. Everyone, prepare for crash landing, he orders. Brace positions. Now. In the back, Jack helps Les Hyder into a crash position, wedging him against the bulkhead. Jim braces himself in the navigator's compartment. Alan rotates the rear turret to neutral and curls into a ball, arms over his head. Bill searches the darkness below for a place to land. Fields. Trees. Villages. Everything is a blur. He can't see properly. Blood in his eyes, vision fading. But then, ahead, a faint gray line. A road. A field. Something flat. He aims for it. 2,000 feet. 1,000. 500. The fire on the wing reaches the fuel tank. The tank doesn't explode. By some miracle, it's nearly empty, but the wing root collapses. The entire starboard wing folds upward, tearing away from the fuselage with a shriek of metal. The Lancaster rolls violently to the right. Bill fights the controls, but it's too late. The bomber is falling, spinning, tumbling toward the earth. Brace. 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 The Lancaster hits the ground at 100 miles per hour. The impact is cataclysmic. The fuselage plows through a Dutch field, dirt and debris exploding outward. The tail breaks off, cartwheeling into the darkness. The cockpit crumples, metal screeching, tearing. Bill is thrown forward, his harness snapping, his body slamming into the instrument panel. The world goes black. Then, silence. Bill wakes to the smell of burning metal and the sound of crackling flames. His head is ringing, his body screaming in pain. He's still in the pilot's seat, surrounded by twisted wreckage. Fuel is leaking, dripping onto hot metal. The fire is coming. Out, he gasps. Everyone out. He unbuckles, stumbles, falls through the shattered cockpit onto the cold earth. His legs barely hold him. He looks back at the wreckage. The Lancaster is a broken skeleton, flames consuming what's left of the fuselage. "Jim!" he screams. Jim crawls out of the navigator's hatch, bloodied but alive. Jack emerges from the rear, dragging Les Hyder. Alan pulls himself free from the tail section, his face blackened with smoke. Together, they drag Les Rolton from the nose. He's unconscious, barely breathing. They stumble away from the wreckage, 50 yards, then 100. The Lancaster explodes behind them, a fireball rising into the night sky. The heat washes over them. They collapse in the field, gasping, bleeding, alive. 3 days later, Dutch resistance fighters find them. They're hidden in a barn, wounded, exhausted, but alive. Les Rolton survives. So does Les Hyder. So do they all. Bill Reed is captured by the Germans 2 weeks later. He spends the rest of the war in a POW camp. After the war, he's awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest military decoration for valor, for his actions that night. For refusing to turn back. For flying a burning aircraft into the heart of Germany. For bringing his crew home. But Bill never talks about it. Not really. When people ask, he just shrugs and says, "I did what any of them would have done." And maybe that's true. Because that night, over Germany, with fire in his wings and death all around, Bill Reed didn't fly for glory. He flew for his crew. For the men who trusted him. And that's what makes a hero. Not the medals. Not the stories. But the moment when you're staring into the abyss, and you choose to keep flying.